Our region's business is sponsored by PNC for the achiever in you. Our region's business, improving our economy, creating jobs, and strengthening communities. Innovation, collaboration, transformation, and the people making it happen. Join us as we take a closer look at our region's business. Now, here's your host, Bill Flanagan.
Today on Our Region's Business, we have a new home. Well, actually, we're still broadcasting from the WPXI TV studios just off I-279 in the city of Pittsburgh, but we have a brand new set that we hope reflects what's become a newer and newer Pittsburgh region. Innovation has been a big part of the changes we've seen around here over the past decade or two, and today we'll meet a company based right here in our region that's bringing transparency to waste management of all things. We'll find out how the new service flows right to the bottom line. We'll also learn about innovation in the city of Pittsburgh, the progress it's made in bringing its systems into the 21st century, and a new effort at inclusive innovation that's kicking off right now. But first, it's time to celebrate a birthday. The city of Pittsburgh turns 200 in 2016. It was way back in March of 1816 that a one-time frontier settlement got its official charter from the Commonwealth that made it a city. Bill Peduto follows in the footsteps of Ebenezer Denny, Pittsburgh's first mayor, and Mr. Peduto is Pittsburgh's mayor today. And welcome back. Good to have you here.
Great, and thank you for letting me be one of the first guests with the new set.
You absolutely are. It's great to have you here. We're really excited, and hopefully it does really reflect all the exciting things that are happening in our region and in the city these days.
There's a lot. You know, I had a dinner last week with the CEO of Uber. Travis is not even 40. He's worth $7 billion. And as we're sitting there and around a small table, there's the person that created Google Maps. There's the person who, on the Twitter fail whale, makes sure why you've never seen it again. And all this amazing people who are now calling Pittsburgh home, who are working here. And whether it's Uber having over 300 employees and we'll have 600 by the end of the year, Apple doubling the number of employees, Google over 700, Bosch going from 60 to 360, Tata making their global innovation center here in Pittsburgh, Intel, Microsoft, Disney, Facebook, Oculus. There's still a part of Pittsburgh that is being left behind.
Well, and I was going to ask you about that, because what you just described is the new Pittsburgh we're all so proud of. Everybody here has worked so hard for so long to begin to make happen. And then we have an incident like the tragedy in Wilkinsburg last week, just that horrifying attack.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of different things, and obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to the family that was involved in this tragedy. But there's also a reality that we have to face, that for all the good things that are happening, there still is not a ladder of opportunity for so many Pittsburghers to be a part. And when the best paycheck in the neighborhood is by dealing drugs, when the lack of opportunity is there because education wasn't given at an early enough level for people to start out of the gate at the same level, when those types of things hold people back, violence becomes a part of the community. And we can't simply solve it by putting more police on the street. We have to work together as a community, as a city and as a region, to start looking at all the different parts that create the symptom, which is the violence that we see.
Yeah, Wilkinsburg obviously technically outside city limits, but the city in Wilkinsburg joined at the hip.
Without a doubt. And you know, this week we also celebrated the Wilkinsburg School Band and Westinghouse School Band, and the kids getting together for the first time. And on that same day, later that night, the tragedy that occurred.
You talk about the places that have been left behind. I mean, there's Wilkinsburg, there's neighborhoods in the city, there's certainly municipalities throughout our region that really haven't enjoyed the prosperity that's been created here. Is that a big part of what's behind this new push the city has toward this thing called inclusive innovation?
Yeah, we understand, and this is a partnership that goes not only with our foundation community, our universities, and our corporate community, but within the neighborhoods themselves, that if we start to put and bake into all of the different initiatives that we take opportunity for all to be a part, then we'll start to see a difference happen. So with inclusive innovation, we don't want to see neighborhoods become redlined out. In fact, we want to redline them in. So our first partnership with Google, in order to provide free Wi-Fi for 2 years, isn't happening in Shadyside, Squirrel Hill, or Oakland. It's happening in Larimer, and it's happening in the parts of East Liberty that are still low income. And what we're doing is we're partnering with tech companies and others to be able to provide access to information, to be a key component of the way that we start to build out the new city.
You know, it's interesting because Pittsburgh's certainly not alone in trying to figure out how to plug the people who are already in a community into the new community that comes up. But this is kind of new for us. We're suddenly experiencing the problems of growth or the challenges that come with growth.
So, you know, you look at a neighborhood like East Liberty, back in the 1990s, the late 90s, the community got together 2 years. They spent trying to come up with a plan to reverse the trend. People were leaving then not because of investment, but because of disinvestment, because of violent crime, because of the businesses that were leaving. All of a sudden you see now, nobody would have dreamt that all these firms and these new apartments and everything coming in, now we have new threats, and the threats are, can we keep the neighborhood affordable? Can we make it so that people who went through the bad time can be a part of the good time? For 50 years we've been very good at managing decline. Now we're going to have to learn how to manage growth.
Well, in a sense, you have a real opportunity in communities like Homewood and Larimer you mentioned, because they're still out there. That's still going to happen. There's maybe ways to do this differently and better.
We're not at Seattle or San Francisco or Los Angeles, New York, Boston, D.C., all that went through this about 20 years and lost. We still have the opportunity to keep these communities intact, but we can't divide ourselves. We can't become in a position where it's an argument between we don't want to see any new growth or we don't want to see any market housing, because market housing is our tax base. It's what keeps our schools open and keeps police on the street and allows our streets to be paved when we have money to pave them. But the fact is you need both, and you also need to provide the opportunity for affordable. What breaks my heart is when I see the community divide itself and fight on those types of issues instead of understanding that right now there's a need for 5,000 more market rate apartments in the city of Pittsburgh. But there's also a need for 7,000 affordable, and we have to be able to do both.
Are you hoping that this Inclusive Innovation Week that's coming up, I think the first week of April, is going to be one part of bringing everybody together around these opportunities?
It's a lot. It hits on a lot of different areas. Number one, geographically, we go into areas that we hadn't gone into before. We provide opportunities for groups that we hadn't, seniors, low-income children, families. And at the same time, we bring together all these great new companies that are coming here with the young people who can become a part of it, and we give other kids, especially within our public schools, the opportunity to say, hey, I can do that someday. And that's really the goal. The goal is that we are changing it, and it's going to be a successful change for us. We just want to make sure it's a Pittsburgh for all.
Very good. Well, when we come back, I want to talk about this being the culmination of a really long history for the city of Pittsburgh. A lot coming up this year around the bicentennial, and we'll be back with more with City of Pittsburgh Mayor Bill Peduto right after this. Stay with us.